Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is, I believe it's Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday, October 25th. Had to think about that for a minute, but today this will be our chart list for the day, and it really was all downhill today. We actually bottomed out around 11:15 or so, and just kind of went sideways from there. But this was just the continuation of this trend coming down. Fairly decent two-tiered channel coming down. Early on, you had to assume that the one or two things would probably happen here. Either this is going to be a range day because it's really not much price action in the overnight. We were shortly after the open, a couple of points below the overnight low, but we rebounded pretty quickly and got back in there. But so this, at this time of day, you got to be thinking, hey, this is either going to be a range day or we'll probably make a lower high here and then we'll look for a measured leg down. And so once we started going lower again, go ahead and measure this. You can see that leg there, and let's assume that if we go lower, we'll probably make a measured move, and that's exactly what happens. We actually come up a little bit short, and they push down one more time, and it goes a little bit further, and then we get our close outside here, and we attempt a new low. We never really get it before the close today. We do end up with a low now. But this is a nice two-tiered down channel. There's some pretty good trades here. Uh, they're fairly easy to recognize, and all of them had some really good, a couple of them had some really good moves. It was a little slow getting started. If you missed this first trade here, then you just kind of had to sit and be patient. And I probably don't say that enough. A lot of times, when you're waiting on something to happen and you get impatient and you force a trade, and that's what causes you to have a loser. So always wait until you get always wait until, I guess actually, let me back up. Wait until you have a sure thing or the price action is really obvious before you try to take a trade. So a lot of the times, really, no trade is the right trade. And if you didn't catch this trade, you just kind of had to sit here. I do have one of them marked green, but I'm not even crazy about it, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But if you just were patient and waited on prices to rebound here, if you drew that trend line off the first two swings and it comes back and confirms it right there, that's a pretty good trade. This is not a bad trade actually here. Because you can see this little channel working up. You get a close outside and a couple of pushes with a double top and a big bearish bar. It actually went higher first, giving you a double top. So that really confirmed the trend line. But usually it would be more helpful to get a further confirmation a little further out, and that came here. And then of course, if you caught that one, you're in good shape because you can ride this all the way down for a full measured move. And it doesn't get any better than that. So, but anyway, let me back out, talk about our trades, and we'll go from there. But this one's a little bit iffy here. You really had another shorter term trend right in here, and that's your first break. So we're probably going to test that low. This is a first entry, but notice you got a move down, first entry, and a second leg down. So that's a two-legged move, basically measured legs. If you went to a slightly smaller chart, you'd see two clear legs down there, and this would be a second entry long. But notice how we pushed through the EMA, how bearish that looks. So I'm not going to probably go long there. You might have looked at this like, hey, maybe this is a failed break lower, but I would say we're probably going to test this low at a minimum, and we may shoot for one of these other lows in here. And notice where we ended up bouncing just about where that low is. So anyway, this is basically a failed second entry long. It's not technically one on this chart, but if you went to a smaller chart, you would see that. Even if you did go long here, it would have worked. You would have gotten out just enough, but you can still treat that like a failed second entry long. Okay, I had a slight interruption. I think we were still talking about this trade, but anyway, nice bearish bar. Um, they did stack up here. They're both bearish, so you might have let this one break lower and then dropped the limit order in here, but if and tried to get a little better entry or been a little more conservative, but generally you're going to miss your best trades if you do that. So somebody asked me about that today, and I would say generally the only time I'll drop a limit order in there is if it takes off real fast and I'm afraid I missed it, like right here. I might drop a limit order to see if it'll come back and fill me. Most of the time you just want to enter on a stop. And if it's a little more aggressive trade, which this one might be considered because it's not a true failed second entry long. It's operating like a reversal pattern here though. Um, but it's not a perfect setup. So in that case, you might consider one. So if you enter this one, you definitely got a runner and you ride this thing all the way down. It's tempting to try to even get long here, but it was easy to find this line right here. But you weren't, there was no way. If you drew the trend line off the first two swings, that's actually going to come right through here. And you could probably make that fit on this side, but it doesn't fit real nicely. So what I did was I drew this line off these lows and drug it up. Actually, it fits really well right here. It fits perfectly there. And a lot of times in the overnight, you'll get some odd swings that don't really fit like that. So that could be your channel. And because it was in the overnight, we got outside of it. We got back in and then we reversed here. So, but you always drag it to the high swing. It actually even fits right there to a degree. So that might have been it. But it doesn't really matter. You're probably going to move it up here and wait. You might move it to each place and just see what happens as prices work their way up. Generally, I'm going to move it to the other side, which is going to be here. And look, it looks like you can see it reacting off of that trend line, but it doesn't turn prices. You got to let this one play out. So you do get a turn down right there, but you're still inside this trend channel. And you want to wait. You get a new high here, but you don't get a very good signal bar, and then it pushes higher. And then again, you don't get a very good signal bar there, and then it ticks higher and turns down, and you get a huge bearish signal bar, and it seems to be fitting with this trend line that you could have drawn. You could have found this two ways. You could have drawn it off the lows, although you might have had a little different angle because you might have used the closes like I did on this first one. But as long as you just drew it off those first two swings there to see what happens, and then it makes a double top. And so, like I said, this doesn't necessarily confirm it. You really want something like this to come back, and that's when it's a sure thing. But you have your closes outside here, and you got a second entry short right here. Notice that there's a little double bottom, so you really got a new low, and then it's first entry. Second entry, and you got the little trap there with a double top more than anything after you break and a move to a new high. And it's also a retest of this area right in here. So I like that setup, and I made it red this time. It's close to being green because you didn't have a for sure trend line up here, but I think you can still go with this one being red. It's just real borderline. But when it comes back here, if you're not in, you better get in. And if you're in and not out yet, I'd add on right here because this is confirming your trend line, and you're probably going to take on off here. And it does. And then you get your failed second entry long right here. Actually, you could consider this a failed second entry long because you got a new high, but it's a double top, so you can treat the whole thing as a new high. And this is your true reversal pattern. Look how bearish that is. Go short there and draw that line at the same time. And remember your measured move, you're looking for it right down here. And once you get in this one, you probably got runners, especially if you took the true reversal. And if you weren't out, I might add on again there. And this thing's off to the races. And you look for it to bounce down here. It bounced a little higher, so you probably want to move this up just a hair. And then that would probably make you want to adjust this one. And it does fit better right there. can see prices bouncing each time off that line. And then we're headed the other way. And really, this one was kind of going sideways. You do get a little failed break lower and a reversal. But this is a pretty bearish move down, and it is almost a measured move. So there's some reasons to argue for that one. I like those trades, and sometimes you catch the low of the day like that. But by this point, you pretty much know you got a two-tiered trend channel working lower here, and you don't have a break of it yet. So you're being risky trying to get anything long. So that's another reason just to skip that one. But I'll leave that green one there all the same. And then you're working up, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So again, it's tempting to go long right here, especially that's the first break of that little channel. But again, because we're in a downtrend, the odds are we're probably going to the other side. But I'm not going to risk it there. I'm just going to wait and see if I get a short. And you almost get a repeat pattern right here of this. That's this channel working up to close outside and then the double top. This is the channel, just like this one. Your close outside, the move up, and the double top. We're not back to the trend line though, so that scares me a little bit. So, but notice that's a new swing low. It's lower than that one. So you're going up, you get a first entry, you pull back, you get a second entry. So that's a second entry short, a double top. It's a down channel. This channel's played out, and I like that one. Just to, if nothing else, just to try to gain a scalp. Even if we only come back down to here and then bounce and go on back to the upper side. You know, you've got to consider this not being back to the trend line. So it's a concern. But I still think with everything you see there, you can argue for that one to be red. And then, of course, we come down, we pull back. We get the reversal pattern, failed second entry long, fairly bearish bar, goes short right there. I made this one green simply because it's real close to this little, you could almost call that a double bottom. There's not a lot of room to scalp out. Even though it works, you know, a lot of times it'll bounce there and you'll get burned. So, especially since this wasn't back to the trend channel, because it could have bounced right there and went on up and touched the trend line and then turned down again. But it turns out to be a good trade. It moves on down. I definitely wouldn't go short right into the low of the day there after we bounced however many times across there. I don't have a line, but you should be able to easily see that right there and understand why you wouldn't want to go short right there. So then it bounces. Again, I don't think you want to try to get long. This is all going sideways. It's not bouncing real hard. There's no shorts here yet. There is a second entry short here, and it is an overshoot. And if it would have been a nice bearish bar here, I'd probably said take it, but there wasn't. So, and notice how they just stacked inside, and look what happens. It pulls back, hits the trend line, goes up, pulls back, hits it again. But I still would not go long there. Even after this one, I wouldn't go long there because we're looking for shorts. And so you're probably going to get trapped. Even though they would have worked, you just have to watch them. And so now we've got a break of the trend line. So let this play out and then wait and see if you don't get a chance to go short. You get that little double top again here. But you have no break of this trend line working up, so I was worried about that one. And then when it didn't break below that one, I think you pretty much got to skip it. I didn't mark it because it's almost a repeat pattern, and it does almost look like we got a little bit of a close outside there. It's just so close that you can't call it a convincing close. So I'm not calling that a close outside. It's just not convincing enough. So that's another reason that one's green. If you'd had a big close outside here, I'd say take that one for sure because it's just a repeat pattern of this one and this one. But it does push on through and pull back and give you a reversal pattern, failed second entry long. There's new high, pull back first entry, second entry, fails. And we're looking for prices to try to make a new low here. So even though that's not a good signal bar, it's your reversal pattern. It's a failed second entry long. I like that one. It's a quick, easy move, and that gets you into the 2 o'clock hour. So nothing else after that. But yeah, it was a pretty good downtrend. Not a lot of trades. Of course, as you notice, the only sure things that I've got marked today are the shorts. That's because we got a downward bias really all day today. So pretty good trading day. Not great, but the trades that were there were pretty good ones, and several of them would have given you runners, and so you could have made some pretty good money today um, on just a couple of trades and maybe a good runner or two. So hope you had a good trading day. I'm not going to beat around the bush today. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for the day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.